Listen, we usually talking about money and things of that nature, but today we're
Yeah.
gonna be talking about wealth from a slightly different angle. All right,
Mindset.
mindset,
Mm-hmm.
mental health in the black community. Okay, um, let me just go ahead and keep pinging some people. We still. Did you hear anything from Diamond today?
Yeah, she's at the vet with her puppy.
Oh, that beautiful Roddy. All right, all right, all right. So she's gonna be taking care of pet. Up there she
Don't
is.
forget to drop your link.
Yes, yes, yes.
Good afternoon.
Hey, Diamond, we was literally just talking about you.
Yep, we summoned you up. Yep.
Instagram can't see me.
I'm multitasking.
All right, you mean whoa? See, see, look, look, look. See, you know the setup is sensitive, sensitive.
All right, you're gonna have to grab that. Hey,
Grab
Kanisha.
what this?
Yeah, like I don't know what.
How I had it before.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, Sharonda, Shane.
Let me try something. Let me try something.
The plethora of wealth we have in the room.
Let me try this right.
All right, no problem, Sharonda and Kisha.
What's that?
Sharonda says, I am listening mode due to work.
Okay, understood.
We
Understood.
got Vegans Beast and B1 Poppy over here.
Oh my goodness, y'all should see me trying to get this thing. Y'all should see me trying to get this thing set up, y'all. We gonna
Alright,
we
I
gonna do
got
better, man. Look, we ain't messing with it.
We should start taking donations for
Facts.
a proper studio.
Facts.
That's what we
Listen,
need, a better studio.
if you guys on Clubhouse and you want to donate to the Wealthy Wednesdays
Studio.
studio setup, all right, feel free. If you on Clubhouse, you can always give money over there, right? So, just want you to know that.
Donate some equipment. We need to start passing around our little hat.
Fact. But you know what it is? It's got to be an exchange, right? It's got to be an exchange, right? So if we pouring into your cup, if you finding value, then pour a little bit back into our cup so we can get some of those fancy setups, and we ain't got to be doing this every Wednesday.
Let me drop my address
Yeah,
below so y'all can send us some gifts.
So all right, so let's get into it. My name is Dwayne Hall. This is my awesome wife, Chanel Hall.
Yes.
Right? And we are here today with another Wealthy Wednesdays. Today's topic is mental health in the black community. Who are Dwayne and Chanel? Well, who are we, Miss Hall? What do we do? How do we help families?
We help families to protect their money.
Yes.
We help families to grow their money.
Yes.
And we overall just help you guys in generational wealth building,
yes.
entrepreneurship, all that good stuff.
See, beautiful. You made it short. I would have made it long. All right, so outstanding. Let's go ahead and pass the mic on. Let me PTR and see what order we got them in. All right, we got Shane. Go ahead and introduce yourself in this order. Tell people how they can contact you. We got Shane, Sharonda, Diamond, and Kanisha.
And if you guys are not able to speak,
We understand. We understand. Shane, you with us?
Yeah, I was over here tagging and pinging and inviting.
Hey.
All
Well,
of the above.
we appreciate you. We appreciate you. Absolutely. Tell the people who you are, Shane.
Okay, so I am Shane the Negotiator, and I help both individuals and businesses with proactive tax planning versus tax panic, which means simply that I help you throughout the year because taxes is not just the one time a year when it's April 15th and that's the deadline. It is throughout the year so that you can save the least, pay the least, use more of your money throughout the year versus waiting until it's time to file and then you realize you owe all this money or you didn't pay enough. Or you pay too much and you have to get a big refund. The goal should not be to get a huge refund. It should be to pay just enough to cover your taxes and use the excess to take care of your finances throughout the year, either through investing, saving, whatever you need to do. So, and I'm actually excited about this conversation today. I'm always excited about the conversation today, but this one in particularly, it's one of the areas that I enjoy the most talking about. And I pass the mic to Sharonda, I believe.
All right, and is it Sharonda that's working right
Yeah.
now? All right, so Sharonda is working right now. Go ahead, Diamond, grab that baton. You got it. Uh-oh, Diamond Diamond might be talking to the vet now. I think.
No, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm multitasking and cooking for the dog.
Cooking for the dog.
Yeah, because he got sick, so the vet told me to make his meal. So I'm
Oh.
making chicken and rice.
Dog
Oh.
living the life. Shoot.
Like real chicken and rice?
Yeah.
In my next life, if I come back as a dog,
You gonna find Diamond.
Drop me off at your house.
Oh man. Awesome, but
So
yeah.
I'm Diamond D Sales on all platforms. Diamond DEE Sales on all platforms. Not only am I a dog chef, but I'm also a realtor out of the New York market. I work in New York. I work with people as well as in New Jersey and
Love it.
Pennsylvania markets. I help first-time home buyers as well as seasoned investors with the home buying process. My tagline is anyone can purchase a house, but can you keep it? So I hope you not only step into those investments, but more importantly, keep them. I help individuals through educating them through the process. A lot of people step into transactions and you'd be surprised how many people are lost midway through the transactions. I get people that come to me that started with another realtor and they're like lost and don't have a clue what's going on because of the lack of communication. So I make sure you're knowledgeable through the transaction from A to Z. And with that, I'll pass it over to, I guess you, Dwayne, because I think Kanisha and everybody else is working right now.
All right,
Awesome.
all right. And before we jump into the topic, I'm going to do it a little bit different today because I always forget and I do it at the end. But I would like to do my Black business shout out. All right. My Black business shout out today, again, is the Unity Walk. The Unity Walk. Go to www.theunitywalk.com. It is a nonprofit organization that feeds exclusively Black families in every state. All right. $20 will feed a family. Because of inflation, it's getting kind of tight. So they might not tell you this. I'm telling you this. It's more like 25. All right. But give what you can. Give what you can. With people going through hardships in the economy and there's hardships in life. Life is a challenge, and that's why it's not meant to run the race by yourself. Right. Help out, because at some point in time you might need the help, and you can't receive with a closed hand. So if you want some more blessings, you're gonna have to open up and give something up. Okay. So with that being said, www.theunitywalk.com. Check them out. Give a donation. We appreciate it. And now back to the regularly scheduled program.
I just wanted to say, Diamond, your dog sound a little peed off that you ain't finished his chicken and rice yet, and you up here in Clubhouse. But we appreciate his sacrifice so that you can join us today for our Wealthy Wednesday conversation. We're talking about mental health in the Black community. I know last week we had touched on it briefly. We had a really good conversation last week. We were talking about, it was a young lady, we played a video, it was a young lady who was venting about her parents not preparing her for adulthood with wealth building tips and strategies and things like that, which kind of segued us into just talking about mental health in the Black community, which led us to today's topic.
Yes. So mental health in the Black community, pertaining to like the missus said, to the context of our Wealthy Wednesday and mental illness in our community. I'm gonna start by opening up my soul, y'all. I'm gonna give y'all a peek inside. Yes, Dwayne has battled with I've had my issues in this journey called life with mental issues. We the same way your body might get injury or sickness, the same way your mind can get an injury or a sickness, right? The thing about it in the mind is that most people don't see it as an injury or a sickness because they don't see blood, they don't see bones broke, you don't get to see the physical signs of that injury or illness, right? But it's in the behavior, and oftentimes it's we chalk it up as a moral deficiency, right? When it's really that person may be going through some challenging mental times. So me myself, if you don't know, I am a U.S. Army combat veteran. Been to war 3 times, and I was diagnosed with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, right? It's only when I got diagnosed with PTSD and started learning what that was and what it meant that I reflected now on the entirety of the black community, and I was like, wow, I'm thinking that we all have PTSD in our community to some degree, just based on the behavior and what it's explained as, and you not being able to process a trauma and it getting stuck in your throat, like if you choking on bread or something. You know what I mean? Like that. We don't understand. A lot of them are a lot of us are walking around functionally sick, right? Just barely functionally sick, right? And we got to talk about it. We got to talk about it. A lot of that has to do with how we treat each other, how we view each other, you know, and a lot of it is the system that we find ourselves born into, right? That may be designed against us. That is designed against us in many areas. So let's go ahead and talk about it today, y'all. Mental illness in the black community. What is that? What does mental illness mean?
Well, before I give my comment, I just wanted to read B1 Poppy said most black folks in the hood, if not all, will have some sort of mental disorder due to environment.
Agreed.
Um, I'm not a therapist, nor do I work in the medical field of behavioral science. So if any of you know someone, please tag them to this conversation. But I don't know. I think for me, mental illness just means that maybe you're having a hard time processing through your emotions due to some type of trauma.
Mm.
And you may not have the necessary coping skills or coping tools to make your way through that traumatic experience.
Yes.
That's, I guess, my definition, just based on my basic knowledge.
Okay. Okay, I like it. It was simple and easy to understand. We ain't trying to confuse the people. What say you to the rest of my panelists, the ones who are available?
What was the question? I missed what you asked.
What do you understand as mental illness?
Like, what is your definition of mental illness? B1 Poppy says it's also genetic as well. B1 Poppy, you got a lot of conversation over there.
I don't know why he don't just press that camera button and come over here and talk with us. Talk with us. Come on now, you dropping gems.
I don't know if I, have like a clinical definition at this moment to give, but I mean, for me, I think mental illness, just like B1 Poppy just said, is genetic. Yes, some of it is genetic, some is environmental, some is situational, and it can be so many different reasons or causes on why mental health can be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It can happen, from something that you experience, as Dwayne says, traumatic. It doesn't necessarily, that traumatic thing doesn't have to be from war. It can be you had a car accident and you have PTSD. I had roaches when I was a kid. I got PTSD from roaches, and that's a real thing. And it's so many different reasons. It can be that you saw your parents fighting all the time and shouting all the time, so that when you get into relationships and if your partner raises their boys, you have PTSD from that traumatic thing you experienced at that time, because for you that was traumatic. Someone else in a different household, they could have been raised in the shouting and fighting, but they don't have PTSD because it wasn't traumatic enough for them to be affecting them in that way. So mental health, it's a big word. It's a small word with very big meaning. And it can mean so many different things for so many different people. The one thing I know for sure is it's not talked about enough in the Black community. It's not accepted enough, and we don't always get the appropriate help fast enough. Many times, oftentimes, it's way too late. Children many times need assistance, but sometimes as the adults, even with the most well-intentioned parents, you don't always recognize when your children are struggling, and then that window of opportunity to assist them is missed, and it manifests into something else. I know for myself, I suffer from mental health issues since I was a child, but they didn't know that what was going on. I didn't know that was going on. I was often said that, I'm lazy. I don't ever want to do anything. Laziness is a form of mental health. It manifests in a way of not wanting to do anything. You don't want to go out. Don't enjoy the things. If you're finding that your children is laying around and not doing anything, it could be something that they're struggling with. I don't know. These new age kids are a little bit different. They don't like leaving the house. That doesn't necessarily mean mental health, but you have to look at where they were before and where they are now.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a change, then it's probably something that you might want to discuss with that professional to be able to, walk them through and yourself to understand what's going on, if anything is going on at all. Because someone laying around doesn't necessarily mean depressed, but it also can be. I know it was often told to me when I say, hey, I have problems. It would say, when a baby like you have problems, you're too young to have an issue. That is very much not true. Children understand and they are around so many things. The things that you wouldn't even believe that they understand. They understand.
Mm-hmm.
When you're off whispering in the corners and you thinking they're not listening, they're listening.
Mm-hmm.
So they pick up traumas when you least expect them to. You're like, oh, they didn't know that happened. Yes, they did. They pick up on your moods, your expressions. They read your face like a book.
Mm-hmm.
So those are just a few things that I kind of went on, talking about a whole lot of different things when it comes to mental health. And the last thing that I wanted to share, I literally just read right before Clubhouse opened up with you guys jumping on. Someone that I know posted, who's a mental health coach, posted on her page. It says, "You can't thrive where you barely survived." She says, "You must change your environment, dismantle non-serving friendships and relationships, remove yourself peacefully, put boundaries into place, then the inner work can now begin." I don't want to be around what I had to heal from. That's what literally popped up right before this room.
Wow.
And that piece, that'd be my last thing before I jump off and then somebody else speak. This part resonated with me because I felt like, for me, my true healing didn't start until I left that traumatic environment that I was in. And for me, I had, several different traumatic environments, but the one was my childhood home or childhood, my family and some of the things that I grew up in. It was very traumatic as a child. And my experiences may be different from my other siblings, but it affected me in a different way than it might have affected some of my other siblings. And when I got divorced and I lost my home and things, and I moved back home, in a it was already traumatic going through divorce and losing my house, but I went back into something even more traumatic than that. So it was very difficult to heal because I was essentially placed into the lion's den. So then when I finally got my finances and my life enough together to get out of there, and I moved to Georgia 2.5 years ago, that's when my true healing began, and that's when I finally started to experience peace for the first time. And you'll be amazed how just taking yourself out of that environment, how much your mental health will thank you for it. So I just wanted to share those things to have people to think about and to open up this conversation for a whole lot of more things. And you can for now.
Thank you for sharing, Shane. Thank you for sharing. That was some powerful stuff that you just dropped on us, man. Sometimes you got to take yourself. You can't thrive in the same environment you was surviving in.
Yeah,
Ooh.
that's deep.
Look. I love that. And context is important, right? Context is absolutely important. If the environment is actively still harming you, you have to remove yourself from that environment. Because think about it like the body, right? If you have something that's poking you and it's broken through the skin and it's still poking you, the only way that wound can heal if you move away from the thing that's poking you. I get that. But the way my brain works, I always got a devil's advocate on the other shoulder, right? It's just the way that my brain works. So I was thinking about a situation with myself when I was a kid. I developed very strong arachnophobia, right? That is a fear of spiders. And it is an irrational fear. It was a fear that was so strong that at one point childhood friend of mine chased me at school with a spider, And I told him like, hey, look, he was holding it by the web and shit was
Mm.
dangling down. And I was like, bruh, don't bring that shit close to me. And he came close and I stabbed him right through his hand with my pencil. Right all the way through. I didn't get in trouble. Thought I was, but I didn't get in trouble because when you're in that state of panic and fear, you will kill somebody. You will kill somebody because the thing that you're afraid of, it literally has power over your mind. It's controlling you at that moment. And what I found out, what I put as I got a little bit older, I realized that came from when I was single digits. I had an aunt that found humor in that. She would pick the spiders at the corner of the house and she would chase me with them motherfuckers, right? And and I would be crying and screaming and losing my freaking like terrified, but they thought it was funny.
Yeah.
They thought it was funny, so I developed an irrational fear. And one thing that I was contemplating when Shane was talking is our reaction to trauma can be so different from individual to individual, right? Some might fight, some might flight, right? For me, mine was fight. So how did I break through the fear of spiders? Because I did overcome that fear of spiders, but look at how it happened. When I was in the Army, my field training exercise, out of training, basic training, I remember we was in the woods in Maryland, and it was the last of, I think, like 12 weeks or something like that. We out in the bush. We've been in the bush for like a couple days, simulating war games and stuff. I had one more night before I could be done with this and just be normal Army. You know, don't gotta go through the crazy stuff you see on TV, right? And that night, we did a simulation where we going through the woods and we got attacked, and we had to get down in the bush, right?
Mm.
And it's like right at dusk, right as soon as the sun's about to go away. And as I drop down in these bushes, this tall grass, the grass is infested with fucking spiders.
Mm.
Excuse my cussing, y'all, but it's emotional. As I'm reliving it, it was like, woo wee. So so I'm in this bush and I'm thinking, oh my God, I know these are spiders because I could feel them crawling on me, right? And it's a lot of them. And immediately I wanted to jump up and say, bleep this,
I'm going.
you know, throw the damn weapon on the floor. I'm done with this BS, right? But then I thought if I did that, I had to go through all those 9 weeks again. And them 9 weeks hurt. They wasn't easy. They hurt, right? And I didn't want to be a failure because part of the reason why I went to the military was that I wanted to get out the hood and make something positive out of my life because I was kind of like going the wrong path, right? And I didn't want to quit on myself, but I had these damn spiders all over me. And I'm fighting that irrational fear to just lose my mind and strip all my clothes off, right? And you know what I did? It might sound crazy, but I started fighting the damn spiders, y'all. I was beating spiders. I was eating the spiders. Yeah, it sounds crazy. I lost my mind for a few minutes. I went nuts, right? And it was like I was going to go to war with these spiders because I ain't trying to do these 9 weeks over again. And you want to know something crazy? That freed me from my arachnophobia.
Mm.
In that instance, when I went to war with the damn spiders in the bush, y'all, it freed me from my fear of spiders. I don't know how it worked. I've seen stuff on TV talks about immersion and stuff like that, facing your fears. That was the most extreme level. I had no choice. I faced my fear. Now, if you bring some giant spider the size of my hand, I'm not playing with that. I'm still smart, all right? Because I don't know what that's going to do, right? But I'm just saying, sometimes you definitely have to remove yourself from the environment, but start the process of healing. But then sometimes there might be a part of you that's stuck. Because see, when you experience trauma, you get stuck. That part of you in time gets stuck at that point in time. So if the trauma happened when you were 6, that 6-year-old you got stuck in that moment. It's frozen in time. And every time that moment looks like it's being recreated in your life, that 6-year-old is going to start reacting at that same point in time. They never going to leave that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the 30-year-old you that's reacting. It's the 6-year-old you that never got past that point in time that's reacting, right? Let me not hog the mic. I'm going to go ahead and mute it up. But y'all, what you think about that, man? You know, mental illness, sometimes you got to give yourself space to heal, but then you got to go back and get unstuck from that point in time.
Well, I just wanted to add because I can definitely relate to your story. I'm not going to share what I'm afraid of because I'm still afraid of it, and y'all are about to catch me slipping. But I had a similar experience as a child. I think I was about 4 or 5 years old, and my father had chased me around the house with something that I was afraid of. And to this day, I'm still terrified of those things. So if I had to lay in it or be surrounded in it, I don't know. I don't know. I think I like Kanisha said in the comments. I think I'd have literally died of a heart attack. But we're talking about childhood traumas. I remember, or just mental issues starting from when we were kids. I remember in school they would have children who had quote unquote behavioral issues,
Mm-hmm.
and these kids would be so like bad, right? They would like be disturbing the class and things like that, and then hard for the teacher to control. And what would end up happening, they would end up putting them in special ed,
Mm-hmm.
and then come to find out they was the teachers or whatever would say things like, oh, they have behavioral issues, or they have maybe bipolar, ADHD, and all these different things. So from an early age, right, the school system is telling us, if you admit that you have some type of mental issue, is something wrong with you, and we need to put you in some type of lesser than program because you're not good enough to be amongst quote unquote normal people. Now, as a child, you're terrified of those things, right? Because what's one of our biggest fears when we're in school? Fear of rejection, fear of not being accepted, fear of being ostracized, and things like that. So if I get labeled as having some type of mental issues, the other kids are gonna laugh at me. They're gonna pick on me, and I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
get thrown into a lesser than
Castigate.
class. So most people don't want to admit that they have some type of mental issue, and it's no surprise that this happens in our communities.
Mm-hmm.
These things are happening in our schools, and it's conditioning us from early not to admit that you have some type of mental issues, not to admit that you need help. So what
Mm-hmm.
do? We tuck it
Hide
and
it.
we stuff it, right. We stuff it deep down and we don't admit it. And then we take that from one relationship to the next, whether it's a platonic or a romantic relationship. We're dragging all that baggage around like
Dysfunction.
like a ball and chain, and we're
Mm-hmm.
pulling that into each relationship that we have, and we're wondering why we're not thriving in our environment. I think Shane mentioned something about in our environment that we were trying to survive in,
Mm-hmm.
because no one is teaching us that it's okay to have these issues and we need to ask for help so that we can sort through it, because everybody has issues, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody should have resources to work through those issues. I just wanted to say that.
Shout out to Dominic Lawson over here in the clubhouse chat. Dominic said that's why a lot of our patients have to go and reparent that 6 year old or that child that experienced that trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Spot on, Dominic. Spot on. You know what you're talking about. You absolutely know what you're talking about. You have to break free, to fully heal. You got to go through it. There's no going around it. There's no running away from it. You're going to have to go right through the middle of it. You're going to have to. That's the only way you can fully heal. Like, think about the body, because the body and the mind are similar, right? If you have an infection, that infection can't heal if you put a band-aid on it. That infection got to get some fresh air. You're going to have to cut out the infected meat and skin so that the healthy meat can start to heal, right? So mentally, what does that look like? Well, that 6 year old you, I'm just using that as an example, that 6 year old you is stuck at that point where they got traumatized. And that little 6 year old you still got a 6 year old understanding. If that you that's reacting does not have the adult understanding that you today has. And this is exactly what Dominic was talking about. The adult you has to go inside and go back to that 6 year old you that's stuck and parent that 6 year old you through that situation, y'all. Share the understanding you have now with the 6 year old you, so the 6 year old you can let it go, can understand it. Because we get stuck at what we don't understand. When we get traumatized, we're like, why did this have to happen to me? We don't understand. We get stuck. Why did this person cheat on me? Why did this person beat on me? Why? You get stuck at that point in trauma. and you can't digest that mentally. So it just starts to rot.
I know I also have a lot of trauma around abandonment issues. I used to, not so much anymore. I've since, grown past that. But as a kid, my father wasn't around often, or he would say he's gonna come and pick us up, and then he would have us standing outside just waiting for hours, and he never shows up. So as a kid, you start feeling like, damn, like my own parent don't even want to be around me. And then he ended up having another family, and then I started feeling like, oh well, he loves his new family more than he loves us. So I started having like abandonment issues. So when I found friendships, it was hard for me to let go of toxic relationships because just that feeling of you want to hold on to it and you don't want to lose it. And that goes for any type of relationship, not just romantic relationship, friendships, business, whatever. I'm a business owner now, and there's times in the beginning of my journey where I've took people on as clients that I knew was toxic for my business, and I end up paying for it on the back end, all because of that trauma that I had. I've since then, gone to therapy and learned how to deal with a lot of these things, so it doesn't affect me the same anymore. But being able to identify these things and then learn how to work through them helps you as an adult, and then it helps you be able to teach your children if you have children. And I do want to ask this question: how is your traumatic childhood affecting your adult self? Do you believe that you are as successful as you would have been had you dealt with any childhood traumas that you have, or do you think that you're fine? That's my question.
We got a few comments over here. Dr. Pete, welcome to the room. Dr. Pete says on Clubhouse, true, you got to separate from the environment to heal. Kanisha told you same Chanel, and Dr. Pete came back in again and said all money is not good money. Agreed. Dominic, shout out to Dominic. Dominic is here with us too. Dominic says one of our senior fellows, Dr. Bassel Van Venderkolk, wrote a great book, The Body Keeps the Score. He talks all about trauma and understanding that what trauma truly is. He also what?
How our trauma.
Well, I guess he also talks about how our trauma affects us, not just mentally. All right. B1 Poppy over here on IG. He says, Malcolm once says, you put a sick dog down because it will affect our community. And then he also says, change my diet up completely, aided with my mental. So I gotta add to that B1 because I understood what Malcolm was saying. In the context of what we're talking about right now, though, we're not talking about with mental illness. If the person is mentally ill creates a danger to the community, yes, they got to be quarantined, right? I wouldn't immediately go to put them down unless they're presenting that immediate danger to the community and there's no other way to stop them. Right. I would look to heal before I look to sterilize. You know what I mean? And because one of the things that we got to be careful of is that we judge mental illness as a moral deficiency. We think of someone experiencing mental illness as good or bad. Is this person a good person? Is this person a bad person? But it's not the person. Let's separate the person from the behavior, right? Because that's one of the healthiest things that I learned in life. Even allowed me to forgive myself. I had to separate the person from the behavior. I've made mistakes, but if I am my behavior, then I'm a bad person. You understand? But if I can separate myself from the actions, from the behavior, then I can say I'm a good person that made a bad choice. So now I'm a good person that can make another choice, which can be a good choice. See, there's a difference in the mental conversation. Sharonda says, please speak to those that feel they don't need therapy. They're fine asking for a friend. I love it.
I'm not that friend. I'm not the friend.
So, I ain't pointing nobody. I'm pointing at me. Dwayne. My wife, at some point in time, in not so long ago past, said to me, "Babe, go get help. I'm leaving." I never thought she would. I ain't never think nothing would ever make her say that. So it kind of caught me up. Wait, what the hell are you talking about? No, hold up. We gotta go talk. What you talking about? You need help. Ain't nothing wrong with me. Yes, something's wrong with you. I've been telling you for a while, but you're not taking me seriously. You definitely changed a lot, and it's not for the good. And it's spiraling. It's going the wrong direction fast. I couldn't see what she was seeing, babe. I don't know. No, there's nothing wrong with me. The first time I went to therapy, y'all. I went to prove Chanel wrong. That was my mindset. Watch this. I'm gonna go up in here and prove that she needs to be the one up in here with this freaking shrink. that was my mind. Yeah, something was wrong with her. She need to come up in here and get her mind right. But let me go convince this shrink that nothing ain't wrong with me. Man, years later, I'm like, damn, I didn't realize I was that messed up. Like, cause when you're battling, see, the thing with mental illness that makes it so insidious, so tricky, so conniving, sneaky almost, right? Is that if it was a physical illness, you would use your mind to
Diagnose
discern, right? To logically discern, okay, something is wrong with this area of my body. And then you would logically go about healing, taking the steps to heal that, whatever that injury is. When the mind is injured or sick, how does the mind, the sick mind, have a healthy analysis of itself? So now it becomes hard for you to see the thing that's making you sick because the glasses you need to see the thing is foggy from the sickness.
You're too close.
Sometimes you're too close. Right. So now you need somebody to hold a mirror up for you because you can't see it yourself. Right. So I hope that speaks to your question. If you think that you don't need therapy, go anyway and prove them wrong. But go with an open mind, though. Go with an open mind, and just genuine intention that I'm gonna be honest, and I'm gonna prove them wrong, but I'm gonna be honest, right? And then see what you find out.
So I wanted to share something else too. So when I was growing up, I was a very angry kid, but didn't realize how angry I was. So I was migrated from Guyana. I left Guyana when I was 7, and then I moved to New York. So for those who geographically challenge, Guyana is in South America, not Ghana in Africa. So when I left and I came to the United States, I had a heavy accent, which I guess to other people it didn't sound like I was speaking English, but I was speaking very much English. It was just a broken accent. So I had a hard time with the kids in school picking on me, usually the boys. Sometimes it became physical where they would hit and things like that. And then my home environment was physical because my father used to, physically and verbally assault my mother. So that was two very traumatic experiences. At home, I didn't have the peace. And at school, I didn't have the peace. And the teachers didn't do anything about it. So I grew up being angry towards boys and men. So when I fast forward, I got out the military and I got married at 24. And when I was about 25, that's when I first was forced to go to go see a mental health because I used to get into altercations with my ex-husband. So he was, very antagonizing. And then it was almost like, I got to get you before you get me. So I'm not something that I'm proud of. I used to physically assault him when he would come into the danger space is what I called it, when he got too close and it seemed I got that fight or flight habit, the PTSD was activated and I would fight. So fast forward, I ended up going to therapy, mandated to go to therapy, and that's when I realized how much anger I had towards my father and towards the little boys that used to bother me. So that 7-year-old, 8-year-old person, I was stuck there. So when I would fight with my ex-husband, it was almost like I was fighting with every little boy and and my father at that time. I was fighting him for something that he didn't even do. So kind of I got over that part, went to visit mental, health therapists and things like that, and I've got to the point where I wasn't physical with anybody else anymore, because that's never an answer at all, and I'm not condoning that, just to be clear. So fast forward is over 20 years later, I don't have those issues anymore because I've worked on it, but I realized that I still had issues with the male species. And how I come to realize that is because my nephew, who I loved dearly, was transitioning into that male, an adult. So right around him, and he's about between 15, 16-ish, he's, coming into an adulthood, I realized I'm starting to feel threatened by him.
Mm.
And he's the same person. Nothing has changed with him, but I associate danger with that age range.
Mm.
So I had to go back to therapy and start working on some things, because he's no threat to me. And if he's no threat to me, it's many other men out there, many other young boys who's also no threat to me. But that is the danger that was placed into my mind, and I saw every guy in that sense is dangerous. So a lot of us and a lot of other people might be experiencing something similar, and you don't recognize it because you may not have the tools to put that together. It was put together for me when my body would respond differently. When my nephew would try to hug me, I almost wanted to punch him in the face.
Mm.
It brought me back to 25-year-old me,
Wow.
and that 8-year-old person that felt helpless.
Wow.
So I wanted to share that personal part, because many people would look at me and it was like, wow, Shane, you didn't go through those things, because I always had a smile on my face, but inside it was a constant battle.
Well, Shane,
Wow.
salute to you.
Thanks for sharing that.
For sharing, because somebody needed to hear that, and just for transparency. Because listen, we keep these things a secret, and we can't help heal each other because everybody keeping their progress and they trials and their tribulations,
Struggles.
and stories of overcoming. They keep those a secret, right? So I just want to thank you for sharing that. I see we got Dominic on stage. Dominic, welcome to the stage. It's been a little while, brother. Feel free to go ahead and add.
First of all, I just wanted to say, well, it's good morning here in Tennessee, but if it's afternoon where you are, good afternoon, or good morning wherever you are. My name is Dominic Lawson. I'm the host, editor, and producer of podcasts for Meadows Behavioral Healthcare. So I am not a therapist or a clinician, but I literally get paid to talk to them for a living. And so I just absolutely love this conversation. I'm glad that people who look like us are having this conversation, because for far too long, we in our community have this thing of like, what stays in this house, what happens in this house stays in this house mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to talk about these things. And I just wanted, for anybody who's listening, like, look, a lot of times people think that you have to you only go to therapy if there's like a trauma or something like that. Look, if you have anything going on, stress, anxiety, whatever, it is okay to talk to somebody. It is absolutely 100% okay to talk to somebody, right? Because the thing is, you were saying this earlier, Dwayne, that the mind is a tricky thing. Look, when your car needs an oil change every once in a while, your car needs new tires every once in a while. You need a mental health checkup every once in a while, right? Like you have to go and get that maintenance. What's going on upstairs ever so often, right? And it doesn't have to be like a physical person. It can. I mean, there are tons of mindfulness apps and things that just kind of keep you accountable. Like, hey, how are you today? Are you good today? Let's do a check-in today, right? And so I just wanted to say I absolutely love this conversation. I love that people who look like us are having this conversation. It's literally the work that I do. So I just wanted to add one more thing, and I'm sorry what I was saying earlier. My dyslexia got the best of me. What I was saying is that one of our senior fellows wrote a book called The Body Keeps the Score, and he talks about trauma, really details what trauma is, and also how trauma physically affects us, right? A lot of the times physical traumas that we have come from the trauma. You know, talking about
Oh my
cortisol levels and stress and
goodness.
things of that nature. It's an amazing book that I definitely wanted to add that resource in the chat. Another resource I added in the chat also was about ACEs. We were talking about childhood trauma earlier.
Mm-hmm.
The ACE stands for Adverse Childhood Experience. Basically,
Mm.
and there's a scale and a score that you can keep, right? I think from 0 to 1 is like it's okay. From 1 to 3, you've had moderate childhood trauma.
Mm.
Anything over 4 plus is like extreme childhood trauma.
Mm.
And so, if you've ever had a situation, and I know being us as people of color, as black people, we probably are hitting that number 4 and above pretty often, right?
Yeah.
And any
Mm-hmm.
childhood experience could be if you saw domestic violence in the home, if you saw violence outside of your home, if you saw violence at school, if you heard about things that happened in or around your school, because like it doesn't take much for that trauma to add up
Mm-hmm.
and physically and mentally affect us. So definitely check out that resource as well. And I'm done speaking.
You know,
Thank you, Dominic. That was a huge value add. Go ahead.
yeah, I wanted to add to what he said about, if you experience things as a child. I just thought about it. I grew up in Brooklyn, and in the 90s, you were always
Mm.
hearing about stray bullets going through somebody's window and killing people.
Yep.
So when I got married and I moved to Tennessee, for a long time, I was afraid to sit near a window.
Wow.
Like, and I just thought about that. That just came up for me when Dominic started speaking. I was literally afraid of sitting near windows because I didn't want to get hit by a stray bullet. Mind you, I'm in the middle of no man's land, like surrounded by the military. It's like one of the safest places I can be.
Mm.
But that trauma just kind of, just traveled with me. And the second thing I wanted to mention was growing up in the 80s and the 90s, the early 90s, being dark skinned was not popular. People would say things like, "Oh, you're so black, you're so dark." Some people would say things like, "Oh, you're really pretty to be dark," things like that. So it was some of my own family members that even make comments about,
Those are the
my
ones that
skin
hurt
being really
most.
dark. And for a long time, like I was embarrassed and afraid to date anybody who was light skinned
Mm.
because in my mind I felt like that guy would always resent me for being too dark, or
Wow.
he would make fun of me for being too dark, or he was just dealing with me, and then later on he would be like, psych, I don't really care about you, you're too dark. These are the things that crossed my mind because as a child my foundation was pretty much set that dark skin was not a good thing. It wasn't until the late 90s, um, when dark skin started being more accepted, that I started to accept the fact that I was dark skinned. But for a long time I was afraid of dealing with anybody who was lighter than me because of my own insecurities of my own childhood.
Her melanin was popping when I met her in '98, and it's crazy how mindset creates your reality. Because I look when I saw, and right now she ain't as dark because we've been inside, quite a bit. But when her melanin was on full on melanation, right? It was the most, like, I was enthralled, and I used to tell her all the time, "I love your skin, I love you," and I couldn't understand why she would just dismiss it all the
Power.
time because I was serious. I was like, "Man, I love that. Like, look at you." You know what I mean? And but this our mindset makes things real. So even though it may not be reality because we have healing to do, we living in a hurt reality. We looking at
There,
everything through hurt. Right? I heard somebody just now. Who was that?
that was me. There's another book, and some people on stage may be familiar with it. Dr. Joy DeGroyd. I always mess up her last name. She wrote a book called Post Traumatic Slave Syndrome.
Mm.
Mm.
And so it talks about basically the PTSD
Mm-hmm.
from chattel slavery, and
Mm.
a lot of it deals with how we treat each other in the black community,
Mm-hmm.
like colorism, like
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
classism, and stuff like that. And so again, and that's one of the things she's trying to do to get it added to the DSM-5, and so if it's added to the DSM-5, DSM-5, this is something that can be covered under insurance. You can go to therapy for it and stuff like that. But it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know a black person that shouldn't at least consider going to therapy, even if it's just for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way we treat each other from a colorism standpoint, from a classism standpoint, that can be traumatic. And it can be loyalty trauma. And I think sometimes are so traumatized that it just becomes the norm, and you don't even think it's trauma.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of the stuff that we experience, it happens so often. Like when we see somebody get gunned down in the street because of the color of their skin, that is traumatic.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you weren't there, like you mentioned, your experience in Brooklyn and then here in Tennessee, that's a traumatic event,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mhm.
And so it's definitely something that somebody should talk about. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, I don't care how small it is. If you feel like you've been affected by something, go and talk to somebody, because I cannot tell you. Like I said, I do the podcast with the Meadows, and so I have to go through these stats and figures from the CDC. And I'm telling you, like, suicide rate in our community is going up. Overdose stats in our community from fentanyl analogs and stuff like that is going up. We used to, we talk about this opioid epidemic or crisis or whatever you want to call it. And I think for the longest time, we in our community, just going to be honest, we in our community, oh, that's them white folks stuff. Well, it's hitting us now. It's hitting us, and it's hitting us hard, right? Because we are dealing with some stuff, some unresolved stuff.
Yep.
And we're going to substance abuse, and we're going to these other things, and going to other traumatic events. And so, again, I don't give a damn. I'm forgetting my French. I don't give a damn how small it is. Go talk to somebody.
Yep.
I am imploring you to go talk to somebody. I'm sorry I had to share that, because that's just super important as part of the work that I do.
No, I
Awesome.
appreciate it,
Thank
and
you.
I want to add to that, Dominic. But before I do, let me ask you, what kind of work do you do, just so that our audience knows specifically?
No, so like I said, I'm the host, editor, and producer of podcast for Meadows Behavioral Healthcare. It's one of the leading behavioral healthcare organizations in the country. We have facilities all over the country, and so what I do is I literally talk to our clinicians about these things. Our clinicians, our senior fellows, and stuff like that, and we talk about these very topics, right? And so one of the things that we're definitely talking about more is about generational trauma in the black community, trauma within people of color. While there's a lot of trauma within our community, it's not even the worst case. The worst case is in the Native American community. I can't tell you the absolute horror stories you hear in the Native American community. And so again, these are the discussions, these are the things we talk about, which is why I love that you all are having this conversation in this room. And so that's literally the work that I do. I talk to some of the best clinicians in the world about these very things.
Awesome.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. And I want to add something really quickly, family, because this is important. It's very important when you're talking about mental health, especially in the black community. I've experienced medical apartheid in mental health counseling and mental health services. And it's something that's not often talked about, right? So I'll give you an example. I'll give you a great example. Everybody knows I'm an Army veteran, right? PTSD. But I also experienced tremendous racism in the Army, to where, like, if you know me, man, this is not tough guy talk. I'm not a tough guy. But I was punching people in the face for racism regularly. Like, my answer back then was violence, because I came from a violent type of background. So that was my answer, right? But when I went to the VA now for counseling, I realized that non-black counselors were giving me bad fucking advice. They was trying to convince me that what I experienced wasn't as bad as what I experienced. And just in the back and forth, I'm hearing it, and it's making me extremely uncomfortable, to the point where I feel like I'm getting angry, and I shouldn't be getting angry talking to you, right? I should be getting angry, maybe experiencing anger at some of the things I'm talking about, but your actions shouldn't be provoking that anger. It's just that's
Triggering.
not right. And I was like, yo, I just couldn't put my finger on it. And then it finally hit me like, I don't need to go to these others. I need to go to somebody that looks like me. So I went to the VA. I said, VA wanted to give me a shrink. I said, I want a black shrink. I want a shrink that looks like me. They said, this was the response. And people, I'm telling y'all this because you got to be careful. You know what to fight for, right? They said, we can't honor that request because that's a racist request.
Mm.
So we cannot tell you, we can't pick out somebody based on color to give you medical care.
Mm.
Now, if they was talking to your average stooge, I'd have walked away. However, I looked at this same white lady and I said, okay, so if I was a female in the Army that got raped by a male in the Army and I told you I didn't want a male therapist, would you object?
Mm.
She said no. I think she said no before she had a chance to think about where I was going with it. I said, well, I was assaulted and subject to racism all through my military career. And I'm telling you, I don't want a white shrink. You know what the lady told me? We'll give you a call.
Mm.
I said, what's your name? She said, why? I said, cuz you don't even have my phone number and you just dismiss me.
Mm.
Right? Fight for what you want. And if you think you can't fight by yourself, grab somebody to go with you. In the beginning, I wasn't doing all that fighting by myself because I know, like, I won't fight for real. Like, it would escalate fast. So I used to bring Chanel all the time. And Chanel would kind of be like my intermediate because she knows my tricks. So, if she realized I started to get flustered, she would just start talking, and that allowed me time to cool down, right? But listen, you don't got to do it by yourself. You ain't got to do it by yourself.
What's wild is that it took them a year to call him back, even had a black doctor available.
Correct.
A whole year. What if he had committed suicide within that year?
And they would have been like, oh, well.
Yeah.
Right. But that's why I'm also humbled. I got to give credit where credit is due. You know what I mean? I'm glad God put an amazing wife in my life that was just an instrument of support. Because a lot of times, a lot of us, we check out because we think we don't have that support. And you feel like you're fighting the whole world by yourself. Eventually, you're going to get tired. One of the scariest things that I hear is, and I'm not saying that black women don't go through it too, but one of the scariest things that I hear is when I'm talking to my black brothers and a brother looks me right in my eyes, man, and he gives me this look right here. Bro, I'm tired. That shit scares me. You see that right there? If y'all hear that right there, take that brother and go grab a coffee or something. Go. Just don't let him walk away right away if you're careful. Because we don't understand how many times that was your goodbye. That was that person's goodbye. That was them telling you, I can't carry this no more. I'm tired. Right? So, hey, we got to look out for each other. One black community, man. We're born by ourselves, but we're not born to be by ourselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we definitely got to check up and help each other out. Because sometimes, your brother, your sister, they may be suffering with mental illness and they may not have the capacity to ask for that help. But if you see them needing help, just help. And that don't mean you got to do something you're not qualified to do, but help might just be like listening for 5 minutes, not judging. Learn how to ask the right questions and shut up. I learned that in marketing. Learn how to ask the right questions and shut up and listen. You'd be surprised how many lives that can save if you just ask the right. Hey man, how have you been? How's the world been treating you lately? Just to hear what you got to say, and then shut up and listen. That might just be enough pressure release to let that person make it through another 24 hours. But go ahead.
Like Dominic said, find somebody to talk to. Don't hold it in. Just find somebody to talk to. And not just anybody, but make sure that you find someone who is qualified to talk you off the ledge and just help you through whatever traumas you might be having. Because the question I asked earlier was, how is your mental status to get the traumas that you experience. How is that affecting you in your adult life? Is it causing you to be more or less successful? Could you, are you thriving the way you want to right now? Are you living full of fulfillment and abundance?
Mm-hmm.
Are you, working the best job? Are you making the monies that you want to make? Are you, having meaningful relationships with people? If the answer is no, then it build generational wealth. But if you don't have the mental tools to take the steps so that you can apply these things that we give you, you're gonna die broke
Yes.
and broken.
Absolutely. Mental health has a lot to do with financial health. All right. Trauma. My family used to take my money they would give it to me, let me hold it, and I'll give it back to you when you need it. And they would never give it back to me, so they stole it. They took it and never had, with no intentions of ever giving it back. And what did that do to me as an adult? I had poor money management habits because as soon as I got the money, I had to hurry up and spend it before somebody took my money and never gave it back.
Mm-hmm.
See, that little kid is still in there, right? Let me hurry up and spend it before somebody take it from me and then I can't get to spend it. You got to go back and heal that little kid. All right, because it affects everything.
I think Sharonda unmuted. I don't know if you still have a chance to speak. Go ahead.
Oh,
Sharonda.
all right. Go ahead, Sharonda.
I do. Oh my God, you guys have no clue what's going on over here. I actually had to excuse myself from the meeting at work because mental health is real.
Mm-hmm.
And there was traumatizing things that happened to me in my life, but I felt that whatever I endured during that time just made me stronger.
Mm.
However, April 15th, 2021, I received a phone call in the afternoon, 2:38 to be exact. And the phone call was a detective informing me that my 24-year-old daughter had overdosed from fentanyl. And I just went limp. Like she's 24. Like, this cannot be my life. She's my baby. But there was so many things that happened, She had 2 babies, and after she passed, I just beat myself up daily on things like when she asked me to babysit. I said no, I couldn't babysit. Or if she asked if I could do a thing for the kids, and I beat myself up because I feel as though had I helped her out a little more, her to try the fentanyl. So I'm saying all that to say, even through grieving, what are we blaming ourselves for when that loved one passed away? And that's why I said, or I asked the question, what about those people that feel like they don't need any type of therapy? Because on my job, my supervisor encouraged me to get therapy. Because at night I would find myself when everybody was asleep and it was just me and my thoughts, just crying. Just crying. Why? Because I wanted everybody to feel like I was strong. I was strong enough to be able to help them endure the grief of losing our baby, or losing their sister, or losing their aunt, or losing their mom. And so all I kept doing was making an excuse as to why I would not go see somebody who can help me with my grief or help me process it. And the excuse was, what are they going to do? Just sit there and hear me cry? Because if they have not lost someone, how can they help me? And so everything that everybody everybody is saying, the stories that you guys are sharing, you know, Mr. Dominique, all it's helping me. Shane, you know, it's helping me because I am now going to schedule an appointment to get help
Yes.
because it's tearing me up inside that my baby is gone. And at one point I questioned God, like, you cannot have this right. This can't be the order. And so I just really wanted to share and say thank you to everybody that came on and was transparent and shared their story, because again, your story can help somebody else, and that somebody else is me today. So that's it.
I just wanted to tell you, Sharon, thank you so much for being transparent and sharing your journey. I wish I was in California with you so I can give you a big old hug and a squeeze. Because sometimes even a hug just makes you feel better. Yeah, a lot of times we blame ourselves when other people do things, but you know, in actuality, we don't know. For every choice that we make, there's like another, what is it like? Bunch of different choices that we could have made. So we never really know what an outcome could have been because there's so many different choices we could have made.
You know.
Yeah.
And Sharwanda, thank you for your transparency. You got me over here shedding tears. I'm fighting
Right.
with the hair, right? Because I felt you. It's not I know what you're saying. It's I feel what you're saying. Because my daddy died about 10 years ago, and similar situation. What if the guilt is the part that can kill you, right? That guilt, me being the oldest, and you know, trying to be strong for everybody and all that stuff while everybody else breaking down, and I'm just there trying to hold on to it. And you know, I back then I thought that, you know, you just tough it out, and I went overseas on a contract, and I came back home, and then I had damn near a mental breakdown almost, like where my body got sick. My body got sick. Like doctors would say, doing all kind of tests. I was rapidly losing weight, vomiting, throwing up. Couldn't get off the couch. There was nothing physically wrong with me. They checked everything possible, but they couldn't explain why I had lost 60 pounds in like 5 months, right? And couldn't keep no food down. And it was from guilt. Because see, when my daddy died, I was playing a silly game where I wanted him to send me some money, and he didn't send it. And I was like, all right, I'm going to pretend like I'm mad at him just to give him a little pressure. And then he died. Right after he called me that one day, and I was like, I'm going to give him 2 more days of pressure. I'm going to call him and let him off the hook. And them 2 more days never came, right? And that haunted me for years, to the point where it like mentally, I got fucked up. I was in a dark place, and Chanel she saw the results of it, but I didn't even understand what was happening to me, to communicate what was happening to me. What I will tell you is this: therapy helped. A part of that healing happened to me when I went inside. You know, the place where it's scary, where I didn't want to go to. And when I went inside in my stillness, in my meditation, one night, my father showed up. Like 6 years after his death, he showed up. And he was covered in rainbow colors. And we was out. It might sound crazy, but we was out somewhere on some planet, right? And the sky was nighttime and the stars, and he was like shining almost like a rainbow kind of shine, but it was bright. And he wasn't talking, but I could hear his voice. He's talking inside my head, and he pretty much was like, "Hey man, I've been beating myself up all these." He's telling me, "I've been beating my son. Why you been beating yourself up all these years? Daddy, I could have did this. I could have did that, and I want to put the blame on somebody. So I want to go hurt this person. I want to go hurt that person." And you know, Pops, he just smiled at me, and he had this way of just like when he was alive, just he would always, I would get fired up and he would just say like 2, 3 words and take all my steam out. And I'd be like, wow. But he did that like mentally, like in my heart. He released me. He told me, like, look, son, I made my own choices and I'm happy with the life I live. And no, I didn't leave you. How can I leave you when I'm in you? Where you think this is happening right now? Right? And it was like, it was so freeing for me to know that he wasn't like, it wasn't on me to save him. It wasn't on me. He was okay with the choices that he made. And where he was now, it wasn't no pain, no suffering, no grief. All that stuff goes away once we check out. It's not there no more. So he's not hurting. He's in bliss. He's in happiness. Right? And when I woke up out of that meditation, when I got up out of there, I was free. All the grief I was carrying all them years went away. I was free. And you know, I'm just sharing this because I hope somewhere in there you can find something that can help you the way it helped me. Right? Because it doesn't go away, but it gets easier to carry.
Can I say something? I wanted to respond to my mom. Somebody said something earlier on the call that mental health is genetic, and sometimes it's passed down through action. And so I just wanted to tell my mom, you know, you're the leader of our family.
Mm-hmm.
And so it may take for you to go and get help, for everybody else to go and get help. You know, there are kids involved here. And if you don't go and get that help, and we don't go and get that help, those kids won't see it as something that we should do. We grow up in a community, the Black community doesn't believe in going to go get help.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't. And we live traumas, and the saying goes, hurt people. And so we don't know how those girls feel. We don't know what type of things are going to come from them not having their mom around. Yes, they have us, but the baby, she remembers her. She remembers mom.
Mm-hmm.
And there are things that she's going to miss from not having her mom around. And neither one of them will now have their fathers. We don't know what that's going to do to them. And so if somebody doesn't step up and say, you know what, I'm going to go get this help so that I can be able to direct them where to go and get marriage.
Mm.
One of the biggest things, I grew up in a household where when you were upset with somebody, you didn't talk to them for weeks, sometimes days. And I remember when I got with my husband, I told him, you know, don't do that to me. If you need space, if you need to, let me know that. But don't ghost me, if you will. But then when he would, you know, my husband is somebody who needs space. He needs to go and think about, you know, things when he's upset. But I couldn't stand that, and all I was thinking about was the wounds that were left behind in me, the trauma that I was dealing with, because I didn't want somebody not speaking to me. But that's something that I had to deal with from growing up. That had nothing to do with him.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, we have these girls, and those girls, they need us to be what we didn't have.
Kanisha, I identify with that. Go ahead, Dominic.
No, I think Delilah was trying to say something. Go ahead.
Welcome to the stage,
Yeah,
Delilah.
I wanted to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, welcome to the stage.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I just wanted to say I appreciate all of you all for sharing and also for talking about this. I can relate to almost everybody up here except for going into the military or having that background. I do have family that's been in there, but I wanted to basically share that the same things that when we lose loved ones, in addition to all the other traumatic experiences that pretty much culminate into who we are, that we carry every day. My grandmother passed away on Thanksgiving in 2009. And she had tried to, she actually came to visit when I lived in Georgia when I was with my ex. And she was trying to tell me that she was sick, but I didn't know. I was running around, I was moving too much, I was doing stuff. She was trying to do things with me at the time that I didn't understand that you needed to do with the person that you trusted in order to take care of business before you pass away. I didn't understand. She didn't sit down with me and say these things. I had never known my grandmother to even leave the state. She always had me with her when I was a child, and I would go take care of business with her. As a kid, you know, she'd go to the bank and she'd bring me with her. So, you know, I thought that I was looking out for her when she was there with me visiting. And oh, grandma, you can't, you know, I didn't have a car, so I was like, grandma, you can't get on the bus with me, you can't do this, you can't do that. And she's like, stop treating me like a kid, stop treating me like a baby. And I didn't understand that, because I'm like, grandma, I don't want you to fall, I don't want you to do this, you know, it's these hills in Georgia, like, it's not like Chicago, you can't just, you know, do this and that, the buses are terrible, all that. And I didn't think, she has the money to go get a cab, Delilah, all you gotta do is listen to her. Like, I was being stubborn, but still thinking I was protecting her. And it was a lot going on. Long story short, she left. We had an argument, and then she left, and I didn't see her. We didn't talk for months, and then all of a sudden, I heard she was ill. And I kept trying to fight to get up there, but unemployment, you know, this recession thing in 2008, it was a lot going on, and I could never just get up there. So finally, when I tried, or I heard, okay, I'd gotten a job, I said, well, they said we can't leave, you know, that whole 39-day period or whatever. I was like, well, I'll try to get to her next year or whenever. I didn't think this was going to happen. And then I did not talk to her my birthday month. Something kept telling me, you know, I was feeling sad about stuff, but I didn't realize. It's like I knew inherently, but I didn't realize how things were going to play out. And then when I got the phone call, it was very traumatic. Then fast forward to November or October of 2018, there was a lot of similar kind of things happening with my father, and it was crazy because it's not like I was trying to teach him a lesson, but he always kept. I dealt with abandonment issues as well with him, the whole waiting on him when I was a child and never coming and all that stuff. So it's a lot of stuff we all deal with, definitely, that we can relate to. But this one in particular, he became ill. He was always like in law enforcement and the Air Force and all this. And he was real strong and he was a marshal. But then a lot of things happened to him and his health deteriorated terribly. So he also was blind, and I couldn't get to him. I kept trying to tell him, you need to do this, you need to do that, let me help you. And then he would lash out, and I was like, I don't understand, I'm trying to help you. So I kind of just would give him space, and I told him, it's like I knew something was going to happen, but he kept trying to get me to lash out at him before, like the last phone call. And I was like, no, I don't want my last words to be something that I'm going to regret, right? So I told him I love him. If you don't want to go to the hospital, if you want to do this, that, and the third, like, I don't know what else to tell you, but, you know, I love you, and, you know, if you feel like that's what you want to go do, go get help, you know, but I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to say mean things to you. You know, it's like he wanted me to do that. And then I didn't talk to him, and he passed, and it hurt me. Not to keep the family together. There was a lot of stuff that went on, but long story short, I took those things and I held them. I held on to the grief and the guilt for a long time, especially with my grandmother and my father, because, you know, we go through it, like you guys said. Should we have done something different? If I'd have just did this, if I'd have just did that. And then I want to say about early 2019, maybe 2020 sometime, I can't really remember, but I started going into this community around 2020, 2019, I know, but basically, I think mid or early 2020, one of my friends was a reader, and long story short, he was channeling, and I can do all of these things as well. I have gifts and abilities, but, you know, sometimes when you go through traumatic experiences, or when you experience trauma, you really sometimes are blocked and your gifts are hindered, or you really can't do some of the things that you're able to do for yourself, that you may be able to do for other people. And so that's why it helps that, you know, we do get around other people and have these talks and experiences. But what happened was, he was telling me, Delilah, it's okay they're actually always around you. They're talking through me now. And I felt their presence. I could always feel it. And sometimes my grandmother would visit me in a dream, and it just had been a long time. And so when he told me that, I broke down because I knew what he was telling me was true. And he was just letting me know because he'd never seen them. He described what they looked like and how they would speak to me. And, sometimes we'd be like, oh, I don't believe in that, whatever. Like, I grew up religious, Christian, and all that stuff. But as you go through these journeys that we go through, whether you believe in it or not, you start to feel different and you realize the familiarity of these individuals that were here because they're still there within you as well as surrounding you because they protect you. And when you feel them, you notice that what is happening is real. Whether the social constructs define that this is really what it is and it's not, you believe in what's happening at that moment. And I began to truly break. And they said, baby, it's okay. This wasn't you. This was not your fault. This is not, you don't have to carry that load, that burden, that yoke. That's not on you, sweetheart. It's not something that you need to feel like you're at fault with. And I really talked to them and really had to cry and get it out. And they were just like, it's okay. So, and both of them, it's something when you truly think about it, whether you're on your own, whether you're talking with someone, or it's in a dream, because they will come to you in a dream sometimes, and whatever state that you're in at times, they know, but sometimes we don't realize that they're connecting to us or trying to get our attention, whether it is a mental health person, or it's a doctor, or it's your friend, or even an animal or something, sometimes we really have to sit back and think about what they're trying to get us to see, because in all the mania and chaos that we're experiencing in life, they really come to us at times, even when we're in denial and we try to push it off and we don't know what's really happening to us. And what I was really trying to get at is I really appreciate that you guys are, not just having this conversation, but we can all relate. I know that I can, and that's why I wanted to bring that up, because my experiences with death, with just my grandmother and my father recently, because literally my father passed away October 2018. He was supposed to be buried on my birthday, November 5th, but it was the 6th. And then my grandmother, her anniversary of Thanksgiving is coming up, and every year, I get weird, feeling like I can't place it. But then again, I think about it, I'm like, wow. So with all of that being said and everything that you guys have pulled together, a lot of this is definitely necessary, and I appreciate that we are all able to even come to this safe space and express ourselves and still be able to move forward, knowing that we have this support available to us. So I appreciate that. Thank you for allowing me to speak on the platform about it.
Thank you for sharing, Delilah. Thank you for sharing. You touched on something. I just want to point out to the people. I'm pretty sure Dominic, being a professional in this field, he would know more about it. But one thing I learned about trauma is that your subconscious remembers everything. So your subconscious is always keeping time, even though you might not. So traumas that I experienced, like big traumas in my life that happened at certain points in the year, I'm conscious of those points in the year coming around, because my mind can, if I'm not doing my mind maintenance, my mind can slip and start reliving those traumas in my subconscious. As those times of the year come around, you'll start acting that out. I'll start acting out certain things, right? And because I learned that about myself and I was able to communicate that with you now, right, is why it's good to be around people, right? So that people can see things in you if you miss it. So if I miss something, if I might miss some maintenance on myself, and Chanel will bring it to my attention, babe, you isolate. You've been in your phone for like hours today. What's going on? I have. Wow. Okay. Let me think. Well, you know what? I was kind of bothered. This is that time of year. Okay. Thanks for bringing that, putting it in my, like I say, thanks for putting it in my viewfinder, right? So now that I see it, I I can take actions and steps to mitigate that, redirect the brain, right? You'll be surprised just getting outside and sitting in the sun. That is so therapeutic for me. Going outside, taking my shoes off, finding some grass, and just sit there with the sun in my face. And even in the wintertime, it still works. Now, I wouldn't recommend taking your shoes off, but just go outside and standing in the sun and just letting the sun hit your face, right? Something about that action is therapeutic for me. It helps me to center, right? So, you got to find out what works for you. All work differently. So you got to find what works for you. But the first step is identifying these things, right? Getting to know you. You got to get to know you so that you can now take control and not be in the passenger seat of your life, but be in the driver's seat of your life.
You always say you can't pay it back, but you can pay it forward. And something Delilah was saying, you didn't get a chance to be there in the way that you would have wanted to for your grandmother, but you were able to do it with your father. Sometimes, same thing with you doing. You probably weren't able to, be there with your father, excuse me, the way you would have liked to. So
Yep.
Since you can't go back and change that, now you make sure that you go out of your way to be present in your children's life so that they have a better experience.
Absolutely.
Now, because they have a better experience now going forward, your children are less likely to make the same mistakes you made. Same thing with, you, Delilah. If you're able to pour into someone else, that new person might be able to avoid some of those same mistakes that you made. And it also becomes fulfilling when we're able to do something that can help somebody else.
Yes.
It brings you this sense of joy and just abundance.
Say
and
that part one more time.
It's fulfilling when you're able to do something and to pour into somebody else, especially if it was something that you were missing in your life. When you're able to give it back to somebody else, it actually kind of fills that void and makes it kind of go away, so that you're no longer living in regret and living in the past. You're kind of living in the future, living, in the present. And you're able to move forward and help someone else to avoid making those same mistakes that you would have possibly made.
Miss Hall, that is great suggestions. I love it. We can't pay it back, but we can absolutely pay it forward. All right, and acts of service.
Mm-hmm.
See, mental illness. A lot of my experience with mental illness brings me. It isolates. It collapses you into a spot, right? If that makes sense, it confines you, right? You got to find ways to open up, to get free out of that spot. To one of the things I was thinking about earlier, cry. Do you know how long it took me to cry when my father died?
Mm.
Like, actually really cry. Sometimes you got to cry. Like, you got to just snot bubbles and everything. You got to let it out. You got to scream. You got to hit some walls. You got to let all of that energy out. Because that energy is going to stifle you.
Yes.
It's going to suffocate you. It's going to choke you. Literally, it's going to suffocate you. You got to let it out. And it's like the boogeyman in the closet, but you realize that once you open that closet door and turn the light on, you had nothing to be scared of. But as long as you was thinking about what was behind that closet door, you was terrified. Right? So sometimes you just got to let it out, y'all. And if you don't, like this is why I recommend going to therapy, right? Because that is a safe environment to do that. But if you don't feel safe there, do you feel safe with someone else? Do you have 2 or 3 people that you feel safe with? That you can have that experience there. Right? But you gotta let it out, because that's the energy. Once you release it, you can grow. If you don't, it literally will make you sink to the bottom of the ocean.
I know we went over, but I just wanted to drop this resource. Psychology Today. It's a website that you guys can go on for psychologists in any state in the U.S. They do take insurance. Many of them do take insurance. It's called Psychology Today.
Mhm.
So you guys check it out, and you guys can find whatever therapist or psychologist that would work best for you on that platform.
Awesome, awesome. And I do want to say, yeah, we did go over, but I don't mind that we went over half an hour because look, you can't plan everything, and sometimes the best things happen when you're not even planning it, right?
Absolutely.
So God don't make mistakes, right? Everybody, this was lunch. This was a wealthy lunch, and we had a lot of people at the table, but all the bread was broken that needed to be broken, and I think people's cups were filled.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I think there was some healing that happened here today on the Wealthy Wednesday, or at least the beginning of the road to healing. And we're not doing it alone, y'all. We're not doing it alone. All right, you're never alone. All right, if you think you're alone, then jump in my inbox. But if you jump in my inbox with weird stuff, right? I'm gonna tell you it's weird stuff. That's not the kind of time we on. All right, that's not the kind of time we on. I'm just talking about like if you just really need like, hey, look, I've had people that I really didn't know and they hit me up. I remember a story years ago, about 15 years ago. Um, I used to be in Facebook groups, and this one Facebook group, this guy was like, he thinking about killing himself. It's like 2, 3 in the morning. I didn't know this dude. He was always jokey, like, ha ha. Man, nobody else didn't respond. I happened to be up. I seen, hey man, what's your number? Call me right now, man. We talked till the sun came up.
Yeah.
Talked till the sun came up. What did it take from me? It didn't take nothing from me.
I did that once too.
But he just needs somebody to talk to, and there wasn't nobody around. And if I left him with that monster in his head, he might not have seen the sun come up. Right? Sometimes stop expecting people to be strong, man. Stop expecting people to be strong. Expect them to be weak. And be pleasantly surprised if they're strong.
Yeah, it was this random woman on Facebook. We weren't friends. We were in some group together, and she posted the same thing. I think I might have chatted with, text her a little bit. I rolled over in the middle of the night because I was feeding the baby or something, and she was talking about same thing, killing herself. We ended up speaking on Facebook Messenger. You walk in the room. You're like, who the hell are you talking to at 2 o'clock in the morning? I'm like, I don't know, somebody on the internet that said she wanted to kill herself, and she had 2 small children, and whatever the case might be. I talked to her for a little while. She had a lot of mental things that she was dealing with, and then the conversation got a little weird because then she kind of started asking me for money or something like that. I don't know. It just kind of got weird. But I did my part to kind of talk to her as much as I could to kind of talk her off the ledge, and then I don't know what happened to her after that. Because I think we just kind of lost touch or something like that. But she did, when I got off the phone, she did say that she had called someone to come over to come and help her or something like that, and that's kind of where it was left off. Someone was on the way to kind of help her and things of that nature. But yeah, sometimes you never know who needs your support in that moment.
Yep.
You're absolutely right, because you got people out there that not only you got to be careful though, because sometimes they will prey on us.
Yeah.
Would have a good heart, or empaths, or whatever the case is. And I've had those experiences. So when you talk to a person, male and female, because a lot of times females will come at you, but males, you never know that they're going through those things. And sometimes they use, and I'll be real quick, sometimes they'll use, anger or, sex or whatever, as a means to talk. And then it leads into, okay, they are going through something traumatic, and then you're able to assist them or talk them off the ledge, and then they go left, and you're like, okay, no, you got to know when to basically say, okay, I have to protect myself. I did, like you say, my part. Universe told me that I needed to, do this and that. Yeah, it's time for me to exit and actually do it, and hope for the best, because you got those people out there that target us, with a good heart, or who are mindful. And then you have those out there that is very rewarding, and you're able to assist them, and, whether you touch base later or not, you're just like, okay. And that's something that I really appreciate. Some of us are
we've done this so long, we don't even, now we kind of realize we've been doing it our whole lives in so many different ways. We're touching others. And the possibilities are endless, whether it's, counseling or, going to see a psychiatrist or whatever. And also in the spiritual realm, Reiki healing and all different kind of things. So I'm looking into a lot of different areas, but I didn't realize that you have people out there, if you talk to a therapist, they say, well, why don't you become a therapist? People always would say that to me. And I say, well, people always asking me questions. They come to me with their problems I don't understand, but somehow I help them with it. And they're like, well, you would be one of the best people to assist them because people don't want to talk to somebody who's never been through anything or who can't relate. So that's, I just wanted to share that as well.
Delilah, really quickly, about 98% of the clinicians that work for us at the Meadows have experienced either substance abuse, trauma, something like that. So you're perfect for it because just like you said, like you know what that's like. You know you can relate, right? And so like I just wanted to make sure I poured that into you because like I said, no, seriously though, like you know what that life is like. You know what those experiences are like. You know what you've gone through, so you can help.
You're right.
So absolutely, I understand why they say that.
Thank you.
Awesome,
I appreciate
awesome.
that very much.
You want to
But yeah, I just want to say, and it doesn't even have to be a therapist. It can even come in the form of a life coach.
Yep.
I know a therapist requires you to actually go to school. Where a life coach, you just do like certifications and things like that. Both do the same thing, which is serve others and helping them through their journey, so to speak.
And there's a difference between a psychiatrist and a psychologist.
Yes.
Very important lesson that I learned.
Yes.
Psychiatrists can write you prescriptions. Psychologists can't. Why is that important? I don't ever want to see a psychiatrist.
Right.
But the psychiatrist will diagnose you, whatever. They'll evaluate you, right? I want to talk to the psychologist. Because psychiatrists, there's a conflict of interest. You get paid by the people whose prescriptions you write. I don't trust you, right? Because you're not here to help me. You're here to medicate me. That's what I see. Psychologist wants to work through the issues and help me to. They don't want to give me a fish. They want to teach me how to fish, right? There's a difference. You want to help me to heal through it, right? So I made it a point that I wanted to see a psychologist, never a psychiatrist. And they get big mad when they got big mad once I found out the difference. I was like, no, I don't want to see a psychiatrist. And everywhere I went, they was like, why? Oh, and then they try to pressure you, and it's like, no, you will not pressure me. I want to see a psychologist, not a psychiatrist, and that's what I said.
Yep, advocate for yourselves.
Okay. Who was that was talking just now? Was that Shane? I think it might have been Shane.
I don't know.
No, I said big facts. Well,
Oh, okay.
Between the two, because I used to sit there and I'd be like, "You're not trying to help me." I literally would challenge them. I would get angry because you're pouring yourself out, you're expressing stuff, and they just sit down. So what you writing on that paper? I want to know what you're writing because you're not saying nothing to me. And they will sign you up to go to the to the loony bin, and you be sitting there like, I'm not as crazy as I thought I was. What the hell is going on?
Right.
But they get paid for that, and for you to get that cycle that that revolving door, and you have to realize, like people have to realize for themselves. They will continuously put you on things that's not for you. You will not realize you're going through a spiritual awakening or whatever else. You're just learning how to deal with stuff, and those medications will limit and hinder your gifts and abilities. They will keep you in the matrix, and they will make you believe you're crazier than what you are. And so that's sometimes we really have to be in tune if we're not, because spirit, our universe, and our ancestors, everybody plays a role in some of these things that we're coming with, these downloads that we're getting, whether we turned this on when we were younger or not, whether we knew about it or not. This is the time. This is the year of Aquarius, and we're seeing all of these things. So I truly appreciate you guys for just opening up this door for a lot of our community, because we don't have enough of these conversations or platforms or even spaces to get this out there.
Yes. Thank you. Listen, to not just you, Delilah, but to everyone that is shared today on the stage. I want to let y'all know, like, listen, you paid it forward today just by joining in this conversation, because somebody's going to hear what you talked about today, and somebody already heard what you talked about today, and you've absolutely helped somebody today in a huge way, because we keep putting on these invincible facades, and while we're all suffering, right? And we all have the ability to help each other by sharing our shared experiences, but instead we suffer silently. I want to say to Dominic Lawson, shout out to Dominic. Dominic put in the chat that if it's late at night and you can't reach someone to talk or call or text, 988. I'll say it again, 988. It's free, confidential, 24/7. All right, free, confidential, 24/7. Thank you. People out here need to know that these resources exist. All right. Worst case scenario, you know my IG, right? So you can inbox me, or you can video call me, or regular call me, but please do not do it on some weirdo stuff, right? Don't make it sexual. Let me just be very specific. All right, don't do that, because that's the quickest way to get put in the weirdo category. All right. But I wanna thank you guys for sharing. This has been almost a 2-hour Wealthy Wednesday. I think we've only done this one other time before, but it was. I really don't even want to stop, but it's just because we have other appointments on the schedule today. But thank each and every one of you. I want to ask you to share this live, y'all. Share this live. Pay it forward. If you got value from what we shared here today, all we ask you to do is just share it one time, right? If you are on the other platforms, please like and share. As much exposure as we can get, we appreciate, because we do the work that's actually here to benefit the Black community, even in our conversations and our actions. And because of that, we've noticed that we've been shadow banned. People don't get notifications that we're going live. Weird stuff starts happening now, right? And I didn't think that happened until you had at least like a couple 100,000 followers, but we don't have those type of followers yet, but we seem to be getting shadow banned. So we do appreciate you guys. If you can share this, please share it. Somebody out there needs to hear it. And this is Veterans Day month, the month of Veterans Day. So what I do want to tell you guys is my firm is actually, we're doing something very special for veterans this month. If you know a veteran, young or old, please have them inbox me. We need to have a sit down and talk. It is some great opportunities around the corner if you are a veteran. Only for this month though, because we got a window of opportunity that's only open for the month of November.
Yes.
All right. So please reach out to us if you know a veteran. Point them our way. Send them to us. Have them inbox me, and we'll continue that conversation. It is pertaining to business. Okay, it is pertaining to business. To everybody, I'm going to go around the table and let everybody go ahead and get final words and tell the peoples how they can contact you. I do want to shout out, before I do that, I want to shout out Edward. Came to the stage. Sorry, Ed, I didn't see him until later in the game. Edward is one of my business partners, one of me and Chanel's business partners out in Ohio. Okay, I think he definitely knew he got the party hat, so he's new to Clubhouse. Go ahead and give Ed a follow, please, and thank you, family. And then I'll go ahead pass it around the room. In this order, we got Sharonda, Diamond, Dominic, Edward, Delilah. If you guys would like to offer some final words and tell the people how they can contact you, please feel free. There goes Shane. Shane came back right in time. All right. Come on up here, Shane. All right. So now Shane goes first in the PTR. So Shane, Sharonda, Diamond, Dominic, Edward, and Delilah. In that order. Go ahead. Final words and tell them how they can get in contact with you.
I know you have a mouthful of food.
What's no?
You go to somebody else. I'm gonna go second.
All right. Shawanda, you still here with us from our California family?
I am still here.
Awesome.
I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna leave with a quote.
Mm-hmm.
A quote that's short but powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, the mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Ooh.
That is such a powerful quote, because so often our mind is wasted. And it's wasted on things that truly do not add value to our lives, and it's just wasted. So I'll stop there. I am Sharonda Harris, owner and founder of Black Unicorn Enterprise LLC. I help individuals get a money makeover by 4 strategies: reducing their taxes, increasing their credit score, eliminating their debt, and an instant pay raise. I can be reached on all platforms at Sharonda Harris. Sharonda, S is in Sam, H is in Henry, R is in Robert, A, W, N is in Nancy, D is in David, A. Again, last name Harris. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
Awesome.
Sharonda.
Thank you, Sharonda, and thank you for sharing. You family now.
Thank you. And so I got a call, so I missed the end of our conversation. But the one thing that I just wanted to leave everyone with is that, no matter who you are, we all may have some type of trauma or something that we may experience, some greater than others. You can be successful in your life with the traumas, or it could be hindering you. In either case, you should still seek someone to speak with. It can be a professional, or it could be someone that you trust to speak on a regular basis about just running things by them. Sometimes you just expressing yourself and talking things through, sometimes that is healing enough that you may need. But at some point in time, you should definitely seek a professional to at least be able to process things through, make sure that, do a check-in to make sure that, you're not completely insane and the things that you're saying are valid and, your feelings. It would just be so much better if that's an outlet you can utilize within your life. You would end up being a lot more successful once you've unburdened the load that you've been unknowingly carrying. Because oftentimes, as I think Dwayne mentioned it a little bit, you have ailments that are happening to you. The doctors can't explain to you why you're getting these ailments.
Mhm.
Medication is not working. And outside of diet changes and things like that, these things can tend to happen. A lot of times it's happening because of stress and trauma. Trauma, you
Mhm.
can be surprised what your body will go through when it's warning you and it's telling you, if you don't do something now, I'm going to do something to fix it for you.
Mhm.
And the way the trauma might respond, you may not be ready for that type of problem. It might shut you down, meaning have you in bed rest to get your body and your mind right, which is also going to mean you're going to lose out on money. So a lot of the times people be like, oh, I don't have time to take off work. Well, your body is going to force you to have to take off work, and it might be worse than if you just took an hour out of your busy day to do it. So I just wanted to drop that real quick because a lot of, in our community, we always want to put off for tomorrow what we can do today. So I just wanted to leave that, and what it is that I do, I help individuals and business owners to prepare throughout the year for taxes so that you don't get a surprise when it's time to file your taxes April 15th or whenever else you need to file. As a business owner, April 15th is not the only tax date you need to worry about. Even as an individual, April 15th is not the only date that you should be worrying about. There's different dates throughout the year based on your income, if you should be paying estimated taxes, paying more in taxes, or sometimes you're paying too much. And I can help you with those things as well. So if you need to reach out to me for any of tax and accounting matters and business related things and budgeting and so forth, you can reach me at SD Negotiator, and that is on Facebook and IG, even here on Clubhouse. If you click my face on Clubhouse, you would get the link to my IG page, and you go in my bio and you can schedule an appointment to sit with me to assist you with anything. I utterly enjoyed the conversation today, and I look forward to next week when we speak again.
Awesome. Thank you. And just so that you guys know those letters phonetically, all right, Sierra Delta, Sam Davis, SD Negotiator.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Shane. Thank you. And now let's move it on to Diamond with that amazing, beautiful Rottweiler.
Hey guys, this was a wealth of knowledge as always. This Wealthy Wednesday. I wholeheartedly believe I went through my own therapies and cycles of, dealing with different things such as substance abuse and things like that to get to the place I am now. And I feel like you can't focus on your money if you can't get you can't focus on finances if you don't get your mental and everything else in order. It's part of getting what they call your house in order.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a succession thing. So you first focus on one thing at a time. So with that being said, it is a stigma in our communities, and it's unfortunate that they have like they make people feel like, oh, you're crazy if you're going to speak to someone, and we like to sweep things under the rug, and that's not the right way. We all have trauma, whether it's generational trauma that's instilled in us from our ancestors that have been passed down, or whether it's trauma that you experienced in the household, whatever the case is. So it's important to speak to someone, and a lot of times you speak to people every day, but you're not really speaking to people, so to speak. So, like, you're not speaking about the real issues that you need to speak about. It's like surface. So you need to be able to speak to someone and get beyond the surface and unpack the layers. So with that being said, I am Diamond D Cells. That's Diamond DEE Cells on all platforms: Instagram, Twitter, Clubhouse, and I forgot where else I am. But if you put that in, you'll find me. I help first-time home buyers as well as seasoned investors with the home buying process. I take you from A to Z, and I hold your hand through knowledgeably educating you throughout the process. I always say anybody can purchase a home, but can't keep it. So I help you not only step into those investments. I think it's Dominic.
Yes, thank you so much, Diamond. Yes, it's Dominic.
Well, once again, just want to say thank you so much for having this conversation. Like I said before, having these conversations in our community is super important. I'll just leave you with a few things. We talked a lot today about being strong and being silent. And one of the things I tell people all the time, being silent doesn't make you strong; it makes you invisible.
Ooh.
And so when you don't share what's going on, we don't know what's going on. So you're invisible, and what you're going through is invisible to others, to me, to whoever you share, or who you want to share, whatever. It makes you invisible. So remember that. Also, it is okay to grieve. Grieve however you need to. If that's punching walls, if that's snot bubble crying, or if it's baking 1,000 pies. Like one of the things my clinicians say is that people grieve as they live. If they're going through something and they're grieving, and let's say you knit sweaters, then when you're grieving, you're probably going to knit 1,000 sweaters. And it's not because you're not grieving the person. I mean, you're not grieving in what we think is traditional grieving. You're just grieving in a different way. So you grieve as you live. Again, I think Dwayne said earlier about the resource. If you need anybody to talk to, and you can't reach somebody, 988. The federal government just opened that up a few months ago. It's available to any and everybody. Call or text. And again, my name is Dominic Lawson. I'm an award-winning podcaster. I host and create the award-winning Black is America podcast, where I do stories about African American figures in our history, and also an award-winning podcaster from Meadows Behavioral Healthcare, one of the leading health and behavioral healthcare companies in the country. And I do the show Beyond Theory, where I talk to medical clinicians about this very topic, and Recovery Replay, where we journey a person's story of recovery from trauma, addiction, and how they came out on the other side of it. And if you want to contact me, the best way is probably just on LinkedIn. Done speaking.
Awesome.
Outstanding. Thank you, Dominic. Dominic, I got one question for you, Dominic. Do you have any clubhouse rooms that you do?
I do not. I am not really on Clubhouse often. I just kind of pop in and out. My wife used to come in you guys' room all the time, and she told me to kind of pop in from time to time. And so when I see you guys were talking about mental health, and it popped up in my notification, I had to hop in because, like I said, this is literally my life's work. And so, and telling these stories and stuff like that, I think she just left, but I was going to reach out to Shawanda. I definitely want to possibly collaborate with her and help tell her daughter's story on our platform, because I think it can definitely help somebody for sure. I'm currently writing an episode about fentanyl and fentanyl overdose. And so I'm definitely going to reach out to her. But yeah, LinkedIn is probably the best way to reach me. But no, I don't really do a lot of clubhouse rooms. I'm sorry about that.
No worries, no worries, no worries. You're very brilliant,
Yes.
thorough brother, with a very mature understanding, and that's rare. So, if it was anywhere that we could support you, just let us know.
Yes, please.
All right, and now let's give it to who's up next?
Ed, are you
Ed.
available to speak?
Ed, are you? Oh, I got Ed up here
Yeah,
first. Well, you know what? Let's do lady. Wait, Ed.
KK.
Wait, Ed. Let's do ladies first because I heard myself speaking to myself. So, Delilah, go right ahead.
Oh, hi. All right. Thank you. I was just gonna say I appreciate you guys for allowing me also to just speak and express myself and my experiences and some of the things that goes on. Some of the things that I have done basically is tutoring and counseling, and also I actually do arts and crafts. And I write. So some of the things that I've done to channel my like the traumatic experiences is through art. I've always done that. So I make gift baskets, and I also do various gifts, and I draw. So I also write. I haven't put out any books lately, but I do poetry, short story. I do a lot of different things, but it's also to transmute the human experience. And so what I also like to do with my gifts, it's at LilahStuffandThings.com, or you can get at me on Instagram or Facebook. But it's either way, Delilah, DELILAH _BEE _ on Instagram. It's private, but you can still, DM me. And Lilah's LILAHS with like Sam _stuff STUFF _ and _things. Basically, these gifts that I make is sometimes we go out and we forget, whether it's a party or an event for somebody or a birthday party or whatever it is, anniversary. Sometimes we forget, giving gifts to one another, or we might forget whatever it is we're, through daily life. But I decided to make things for others because it not only I like to give things instead of just receiving, but you when you share things with a person, it's not just for you. You're doing it to brighten somebody else's day. You never know what somebody's going through. You never know, and just being able to give them something that they're not even expecting, that can do wonders for a person, and that can make or break their day, besides just also talking with them and sharing and helping them along in whatever plight or journey that they're on. So I do like to make things, and I'm coming out with some things a little bit later, like apparel and stuff like that later. But I also not just make things, personalized gifts and candles and things, but also spiritual stuff, whether it's crystals and sage and things of that nature. And I'm moving more towards into that light work. And so eventually Reiki healing is going to be a part of that. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. And yes, it's Lilah Stuff and Things. I did put it in the chat and also put it in Clubhouse. I'm sorry, in Instagram. So thank you so much.
I just wanted to say, first of all, I never even knew all that about you. We've been seeing you on our lives for quite some time now, and you never talk about your business. As much as we talk about Wealthy Wednesday and wealth building, you never mentioned that you had a business. So one of the things that I just want to leave with you today is saying, in order for us to receive, we have to give. So you have to give us the information. You have to tell us what it is that you do. You have to tell people so that people can pour back into you.
And tell us as often and regularly as possible.
Be proud. Be proud of your business.
All right. Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Edward. I saved the business partners for last. You got any last words, Edward?
How you doing, Dwayne? How you doing, brother?
Welcome to Clubhouse.
Yeah, it's been one.
Thank you. I appreciate this first time being here. I heard a whole lot, and things that went going through my head was what I heard about that Sugar Hill game back in the day. Don't push me because I'm too close to the edge. I'm trying not to push my head. Sometimes it's like the devil keep you going under.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone here in this room just hearing the stories and just hearing not just the stories, but hearing the resiliency that I hear with people here at this room here and what they've gone through and how they actually battling what they're battling, but they have the strength enough to open themselves up to share what they needed to share, to get the help that they needed. It's amazing, to hear this, because this was kind of like unheard of back in the day. We had to, like I said, we had to keep it quiet, keep it under wraps, you just had to just deal with it, and to hear this, even though some of these stories may seem traumatic, but hearing the other side of it too, where you can hear the bad things, but you can hear the positive, how the positive tilt can go to the other direction into enlightenment, into something a little bit more that you can carry, when things have purpose and things have meaning and stuff like that, things that really matter, and going to those roots and stuff like that. That's what gives us empowerment. I'll leave you with this. There's one author I did also want to mention. His name was Amos N. Wilson. He was an African American psychologist, and he wrote a lot of books talking about Black issues as far as the understanding of our African consciousness, the psychology of the Black child, Afrocentric consciousness, and understanding about our view of self-hatred and how we can defeat it and everything. He came way back in the day, was born back in 1941. He died in 1995, but he's good. I mean, he's a good author. I leave with this. But also, I'll reiterate what Dwayne said. This is a great time for our veterans. I am a business partner with Dwayne, so I understand where he's gonna get his tidbit from, and I learned a lot from this man here. So he's a good guy. Him and Chanel, they've been very good to us. Also, we also have a good seniors program. So if you know any seniors that have any that are in with Medicare and everything, if they need to update their plans and stuff, this is a good time for them to do it this month as well. We do offer that as well, so you can give a shout out. You can contact me, or contact Dwayne. All right, you can contact me on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I'm on all of them. So I'll leave it with that. Thank you.
And what's your name on those platforms?
Oh, Edward Overbay.
Overbey.
Awesome. Thank you. Ms. Hall, last word before I close it out?
It's just been a great Wealthy Wednesday, and I thank you all for being transparent. I thank you all for sharing your insights, and yeah, my cup is full right now.
All right, and I will close it out with this, right? What do you call things that the body that no longer serves the body inside the body that needs to get out the body? It's called waste. Right? Some of our thoughts are waste. And what happens when you don't get waste out the body? It becomes toxic. And it will poison you. Same thing with mental waste. A lot of us got to learn how to get that mental waste out the mind. Because if it sits in there too long, it will poison you. Right? It doesn't matter how you get it out. Sometimes just get it out. Get it out in a way that's healthy for you. There was times where I didn't want to go to a shrink. So you know what I did? I wanted to talk. I wanted to get this junk, this waste out. So you know what I would do sometimes? I would go to Narcotics Anonymous meetings. The only narcotics I ever took in my life was after surgery for the pain. Right? I used to go to Narcotics Anonymous meeting because it was a bunch of dudes there. Most times, like they had mixed meetings, but a bunch of dudes there, and nobody cared who you were, but everybody listened to what you had to say. And then afterwards, you ain't had to see them ever again. I would roll up in there and just start dumping my blah, because you could raise your hand and they'll, hey, and all I got to say was, good afternoon, family. My name is Dwayne. I'm an addict. Now, I was an addict at certain things. I was addicted to winning. I was addicted to, at one point in my life, I used to smoke cigarettes. I was addicted to cigarettes. You know? So yeah, hi, my name is Dwayne. I'm an addict. And I would go ahead and start talking about stuff that was stressing me out that day. And then I walk out of there feeling like $1 million, right? My point is this: don't keep that harmful stuff inside, family. Right? There's healthy ways to get it out so that you can go ahead and get back to living instead of all this surviving business. And with that being said, I'm going to close it out today. Thank you everybody for your contributions. Please like and share, like and share, like and share, especially if you found value. Share this bag of gold with somebody else. Peace, love, and light, family, and we will see y'all next week on Wealthy Wednesdays.
Yes.
All right, and we closing
Peace,
out
family.
Clubhouse. Oh man, my
Have a
phone
good
been
day.
timed out on me. I gotta log back in. All right, closing out the Clubhouse in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wait, why ain't the button pressing? Oh, there it is. And all right, over here. IG, it has been one. It has been one today, man. I need to take at least half hour to just go still and center myself. This one was,
Yes.
was heavy, but it was so valuable. All right, so